Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Happy Tuesday. First up, Sawyer said Tesla insurance policyholders can now initiate and manage claims through Tesla instead of using a third party, this coming from the latest software update. And when user actually shared a screenshot of the insurance through the app, you can see your policy number, the policy period for coverage, what specific vehicle, the driver, and then you can also click on coverages to get more detail. And of course, in the unfortunate event of having a claim, you want to take care of it quickly and efficiently, and this will just make that experience that much better for Tesla insurance owners. And another thing, we have to remember that none of Wall Street is really factoring in Tesla insurance. I don't blame them. I wouldn't either at this point. It's such a small part of the Tesla business. However, we know that Tesla is working right now to get this insurance product approved in all 50 states. So whether it happens in 2022 or 2023, it's just an avalanche of opportunity that is waiting. And over the next 5 years, once people learn about it and understand that it's better and easier and hopefully cheaper, all of those things, it's one more, and I would argue one major catalyst that people are still sleeping on and have no idea what's about to happen this decade. Here we have some good news for the Doge community. Elon said Tesla will make some merch buyable with Doge and see how it goes. Now, personally, I am not of the Doge community. It is just not my cup of tea. No shade to the Doge community, but I prefer the more serious blockchains that are focusing more on real world solutions that will have a real impact. But if you're a Doge holder, today is a good day, up over 14%. Alex had a very important reminder for all of us, something that I do like to mention periodically on the channel, talking about all of these investment announcements from the biggest players in the auto space. And he said, if money accelerated the pace of innovation, they would be the winners, but smart money allocation is hard. Elon chimed in saying very hard. And this is such a critical point to remember, because if these companies can't find the right talent, which right now is probably pretty difficult, if they can't come up with the right plan, and then if they can't execute on that plan, then that money that they have doesn't really mean anything. So always keep that in mind. Here we have a brief but very fun and lighthearted video shared by Tesla New York from Monroe and Associates. Elon did respond saying Monroe rocks, so I wanted to play this quick clip for you in case you missed it.
50.
10. Oh, wow. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. This is for real, man. I like this. Hold on. There we go. That's fun.
That's fun. Yes, you're right. Okay, John. You have a big smile on your face. If you had false teeth, they'd fall right out. Yeah, so what do you think?
I want it. Yeah, God, do I love the performance of this thing.
I can't believe it.
Daiwa Securities has raised its Tesla price target to $1,050. I believe it was at $850 previously. Here we have some sad news, actually. Apparently there was a suspicious death at the Tesla factory in Fremont that has been ruled a homicide. This took place, I believe, yesterday in the Fremont parking lot, which oddly enough was around the same time I believe that the power went out at the Fremont factory as well. The incident happened at 3:26 p.m. yesterday. Firefighters responded to the factory for a report of a person down in the parking lot. And at this time, no other information is available just yet. And yes, Elon did sell some more shares yesterday, which brings the total shares sold to 12 million, which is about 70% of that 17 million target. And he also exercised another 2.13 million options, bringing the total to 15 million, which is about 65% of the 22.8 million target there. And I'm sharing this from Gary because he's been vocal about wishing Elon would have sold these shares via a secondary, which would have made this whole process be complete in a matter of, a few days rather than a few weeks. And the way Elon's doing it now is giving short sellers a chance to front run his sales because he's telegraphing how it's going to happen with this 10b1 plan. But since we can't do anything about it, just make the best of the situation. If you have the capital and the desire and it fits in your plan, this is a great opportunity to buy Tesla shares at what will presumably be depressed prices. So once this overhang of Elon selling is gone and all of those catalysts for 2022 are in play and come back into the forefront, it should mean good things for Tesla stock if the macro space plays nicely. Speaking of the macro space, the FOMC is scheduled to hold its 2-day policy setting meeting, which will start today. And then tomorrow we will have the release of the monetary policy statement and remarks from Jerome Powell. And with the official CPI data coming in at 6.8% in November, everybody is watching the inflation figures and how the Fed is going to taper their bond buying program and when they will eventually raise interest rates, which will have strong implications for the stock market. And you have to remember that the way they track the CPI data is changed, and in all reality, this number is actually much higher. And I just want to show you real quick, this is the S&P 500. This is the beginning of November. This yellow line is the beginning of December. So for November, the market was essentially unmoved, okay, down 0.9% roughly. And for December, we are up actually 0.4%. Now we've switched over to the NASDAQ. For November, we were essentially unchanged, down 0.05%. And for December, we were down 3.93%. And for comparison and to land the plane, now we're looking at Tesla. For the month of November, down about 15 basis points, okay, relatively unchanged. But for the month of December, Tesla is down 19.46%. This just screams opportunity as we have that clear downward pressure from Elon selling shares and the fact that those sales are being front run by short sellers as well, adding to the downward pressure. Guys, I just want to remind you, this will not last forever. And real quick, some of you know that I came to YouTube from the investment world, so I want to share a really cool company with you guys that just happens to be the sponsor of today's video, Masterworks.io. So right now we have stocks trading at their highest valuation since the early 2000s, and inflation isn't looking too transitory, so what's an investor supposed to do? So typically the wealthiest and sharpest people on the planet choose to own contemporary art, and thanks to Masterworks.io, now you and I can too. I bet you'll be surprised to hear that contemporary art has outpaced the S&P by 174% from 1995 to 2020. Perhaps more importantly though, according to Citibank research, contemporary art has the lowest correlation to the stock market of any major asset class and has outperformed during times of inflation. With just a few clicks, you can create an account with Masterworks.io and start searching for fine art to invest in via fractional share ownership. Not a billionaire? No problem. And what's cool is that after you invest in an offering, you can either hold your shares until Masterworks chooses to sell the artwork, or you can choose to sell your shares earlier on Masterworks secondary market. So if you want to skip the waitlist and decorrelate your investments from any potential doom in the stock market, check out the description and see for yourself why some of the savviest investors are so excited about Masterworks.io. Here we have a quick anecdote shared on Reddit. Tesla may be offering retrofitting autopilot to legacy Model S models early next year. The Tesla rep said, "We're working on a camera retrofit for legacy vehicles that will be rolling out en masse toward the beginning of next year." On the Tesla shop, we have a new product for $100. They are face plates to match the color for wall connectors. These are only for Gen 3 wall connectors. Here you can see the color options: red multicoat, black, deep blue metallic, and midnight silver metallic. And these are made from the same durable tempered glass as the original design. So here we have Elon saying penalizing sustainable energy is insane. Well, what is he talking about? Hallmark's catalog had this tweet: California wants to impose an $8 per kilowatt tax essentially on home customers with solar panels installed to help support the grid. Given that the average size of a US residential solar system is 5 kilowatts, that would be an extra $40 per month that these owners would have to pay to support the cost to maintain the grid. This is basically stemming from the cost to maintain the grid when it comes to net energy metering. So this is coming from the California Public Utilities Commission, which we'll refer to as the PUC. They argue that the plan would encourage the solar industry to accelerate the rollout of battery storage systems, meaning rather than have that extra energy go to the grid, they could just store it and then they wouldn't have to worry about these extra fees associated with the net energy metering. And they said it right here: with battery storage, that excess power generated by solar panels could be held and reserved by the homeowners themselves instead of being sold back to the grid. So according to the PUC, homeowners with no solar panels are shouldered right now with the price of maintaining the grid. Most of those ratepayers are from lower income households, and they're saying that these people in the state have spent about $3 billion per year to support net metering. And I know that was pretty topical, but if you want to get further into the detail, I will link the actual proposal below, which is what you're looking at right now. And if you take a closer look, I think this is very important, as it says, for the same reasons that we require existing net energy metering 1.0 and 2.0 tariff customers to transition to the successor tariff at 15 years, We find that 15 years is a reasonable period over which a new residential customer should be eligible to continue taking service under the NEM 2.0 tariff. So if I am understanding this correctly, this new tariff would not come into play until the solar owner has had that system in place for 15 years. So it seems to me there is a core problem here. We have these solar owners who could generate extra power that'll then be incentivized to sell it back to the grid. Well, doing that has additional costs that the people who don't have solar power are essentially being forced to foot the bill for those additional costs. So they're trying to balance the playing field here, but very clearly here, this solution would disincentivize people to have the solar in the first place and to use that to stabilize the grid. Now they're going to be pushed to basically just keep it in battery storage and not help the local grid. So hopefully they find a better solution. A quick note here, the Paraguayan authorities visited Tesla and are considering the possibility of using megapacks for the country. After the visit, the council members stressed the great advantage that megapack technology can bring to the Paraguay hydropower plant, the HPP. And guys, here we go again. Tesla Giga Berlin water consumption lawsuit threatens 2022 production. Now, I just want to say it up front. I wish there was more and better information about what's really going on here. The translation is tough, so if any of you Germans actually have real fundamental information on this specific case, please let us know below, but let's pick from this what we can. So we have this lawsuit which could lead to the Frankfurt court withdrawing the right to extract water in Eggersdorf, affecting Giga Berlin's water supply and production plans for 2022. Now, the article does say that even with a permit, this lawsuit could halt Giga Berlin's production entirely. Now, I would not go that far. I'm not ready to say this is going to become something like that. However, it's definitely something to keep an eye on to see how it shakes out. Because right now, the court is expecting to receive more documents from the environmental associations and the State Environment Agency. And so part of what I'm getting at is I wish we had better information. My first thought goes to, well, they could maybe just get water from somewhere else, but then I don't know how viable that actually is. And also, we were under the assumption that these water objections were satisfied and handled and dealt with, and now it's apparently coming back up again. So, I mean, it's like, who is right? What's going on with the reporting here? It seems like we can't get clear information. So as mentioned, if you guys have any more insight, please let us know below. Here we have an anecdote that I think might be indicative of larger trends in the market and something to remember.
Yeah, listen, Mel, this is purely anecdotal. I got a Ford Mustang Mach-E, fully electric. This was back in March, and I'm actually about ready to get rid of it, and I'll tell you why. It's not about the car. The car's a great car. The battery stinks, and if you live in a place like New York City where there's no real battery station, or excuse me, charging station build out for anything other than Tesla, it's just really hard. If you're going longer distances than just local, it's really hard. The battery has gone from 300-mile range in the summer to about 200 in the winter, and so it's just a problem because Ford and a lot of the Tesla competitors have not built out those charging stations, and no one wants to sit around and wait for an hour as they're trying to get to grandma's house over Thanksgiving or something like that. So to me, I'm punting it. I'm getting rid of my Rivian deposit here. At some point in the next few years, those charging stations will be built out. It's just not ready yet. You are an early adopter right now if you're going away from the Tesla charging station.
Peter Rawlinson was interviewed by Axios, and I want to share a brief clip of that segment because yes, it has to do with Tesla and Elon.
Well, you know, I know you don't like to talk about the competition, but he has taken some swipes at you on Twitter. He even said you were not the chief engineer of Model S. What do you say to that?
I wish I had that. Actually, upstairs, I've got some of my old business cards. It says chief engineer. I'll hand you the card. I wish I'd have my prop with me. But seriously, I've got my old business cards, and it says, and the SEC filing showed me as that.
Well, let me read you a tweet. Rawlinson was never chief engineer. He arrived after Model S prototype was made, left before things got tough, and was only ever responsible for body engineering, not powertrain, battery, software, production, or design. What do you say?
I think it's sort of, it's historical revisionism, isn't it?
So sadly, we might never really know the truth of what Peter's role was at Tesla. I personally would pay money to see him and Elon in a room together discussing this very topic, person to person, with all of the documentation that might substantiate their arguments. Probably doesn't matter, but it would be fun to watch. Tesla Maniac shared that in the app update 4.4, it shows nearby superchargers in a list like it used to before. So here you go. Apparently this feature was gone, but now it's back. I know a decent amount of people are excited for the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and now we get the cost. It'll start at $39,700 for 220 miles of range, or $43,650 for the 303-mile version. Article links below if you'd like more detail. And the last thing for today, take a look at this. Toyota is kind of reversing trend and getting more on board with shifting to EVs, probably looking at the landscape and saying, wow, we're almost the only ones who aren't really doing anything. Maybe we should change our stance. Toyota has declared itself a believer and said it would make 3.5 million EVs per year by 2030, this up from their prior figure of 2 million per year by 2030. Toyota also said it wanted all models in its upscale Lexus brand to be electric by 2030 in the United States, China, and Europe. I'm actually excited about this because I've always been a low-key fan of Lexus. Never owned one, but I like them when I see them. Akio Toyoda said at a news conference the company felt compelled to update its plans to achieve carbon neutrality after seeing the summit being the one that recently took place in Glasgow. But let's not forget, Toyota said that he questioned if consumers wanted to buy battery-powered vehicles, and he said that EVs might not be as good for the environment as the gas-electric hybrids that Toyota was investing in. And for some context, that 3.5 million EV target for 2030 would be about 1/3 of Toyota's global sales. So now we'll just wait and see how efficient Toyota can be at capital allocation. But that'll do it for today. Please take a second to like the video if you did. Hope you guys have a great day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.